Corey, I want you to tell our viewers a little bit about the sport of drifting and where you see it in the future and why it is so appealing to you personally.
Drifting is one of those sports that even if you're not a motorsports enthusiast, this sport will draw you in. You know, it's high impact, it's in your face, it you know, pleases all the senses. You know, visually watching two cars go sideways door to door, you know, the smell of tire smoke, the sound of horsepower, you know, the feel, the rumble of the motors in the pits. It's one of those sports that even if you're not a motorsports fan, you can watch it and be entertained by it. And you know, who doesn't like going sideways at 80 miles an hour, you know, 100 miles an hour? I think that's one of the coolest things you could possibly even do in a car. And to go out there and do that on a professional level has been, you know, one of the greatest things, because the sport is only getting bigger, it's only getting better, and it's getting very recognized right now. And I just see it keep climbing and climbing, and I don't think the sport's slowing down at all. And I think the driving is going to get definitely a little bit more intense as the sport grows and the skills levels increase. But right now, it's I think one of the best forms of motorsports out there right now.
Now, do you compete in drifting?
Yep, I compete full time in the Pro Formula Drift Series.
And how do they judge one drifting skill from the other?
Well, they actually base it off three things. You know, they look for speed, style, and angle. So they obviously want to see you carry as much speed as you possibly can through a corner, carrying as much angle as you can. So they want to see you completely sideways at the fastest you can possibly go. And the style aspect would be, you know, how close you can get to the clipping points, or how close you can get to the wall, or how close you can get to the other competitors without making contact. And that's what's giving it that really edgy style feel.
Is there an element of freestyle drifting then, where they're looking for the personality to come out in the driver?
Oh yeah, and you know, the sport originated in Japan, and you know, the car culture out there is you know, surpasses a lot of, you know, car cultures in many other countries. And you know, coming from there, they feel that personality and that style. They want you to show that in your vehicle as well as your driving style. So it's a big part of it, absolutely.
Yeah, we were talking earlier on how in Japan, I lived there for 18 years, you know, their house isn't so much an item of pride for them as much as their car is. They don't invite people back to their house, but they'll polish and clean their car every weekend, and you know, it's the window from which they're going to show the world, you know, who they are. A very personal object to have in Japan is a car. There's a relationship very deep. We were talking earlier, you know, that drifting is the fringe sport, pushing the car to its absolute maximum capabilities and being right there in the borderline between, you know, a wreck and running your car off the racetrack and total control. Is a fine line. And yet you said that the technical skill required to drift is the same kind of technical skill required to race a car fast around a track. It's just a different application of those skills.
It's just how you apply those skills that make it different. Obviously, driving sideways and driving straight, you're going to have that sense of car control. You're going to have that sense of car communication. Obviously, when you're road racing, you want to try to get as much grip as you can to the ground without, you know, getting the car too sideways to the point where you're losing speed. You don't want that. But if a pro driver that is road racing experiences that, they know what to do in order to correct it. Now, with the form of drifting, you are purposely doing that, but you have to have the highest level of car control in order to manage and maintain that skid for however long that particular corner is. Both drivers equally need to have the highest level sense of car control. If it's getting the grip to the ground or getting the car sideways at 80 to 100 miles an hour, it's all relative. It's just how you apply it that's going to make that big difference.
So, Corey, could you draw a parallel between racing cars and drifting cars to, say, racing airplanes and doing aerobatics in airplanes?
Yeah, you know, look at both the pilots. You have to be an extremely good pilot to race competitively and do well, and you have to be an extremely good pilot to be able to do the stunts that they perform in that plane. It's just how they're applying those abilities to get the plane to perform or get it to do what they want it to do. They both equally have that ability to do it. It's just one prefers a different style or a different genre than the other.
So they both have to have complete mastery over their aircraft, and they have to be intimately aware of everything at every moment that's going on in their aircraft.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's a very good comparison.
So, Corey, what have been some of the difficulties you've encountered in your career, and what are some of the difficulties you've overcome and the difficulties you feel you're still facing?
That's a tough question. You know, I think with any business, there's good times and there's bad times. You know, if you have a good season, you finish high. You finish high in the points. You compete well, and there's series, points in the series where, the car's not mechanically working correctly, or you're just not driving well. There's always those risks for ups and downs, and I think it's kind of hard to say if there's a low point or not, because if you can take those times where you feel like you're not doing well and learn from them to get better,
retrospectively, those were good times as well.
Because you wouldn't be where you're at if it wasn't for those bad times.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, that's a real winner's attitude there.
Oh yeah.
What are some of the lessons you've learned along, let's say you're 28, you started when you're 6, over the past 22 years?
Dedication. If you don't have that drive to want to go out there and compete and win, and there may be times where it's going to be tough to potentially get out on the track, even though the circumstance maybe will or maybe not will, but having that drive, saying no matter what, I'm going to go out there and compete.
So it's that stick-to-itiveness, it's that...
it's just having that dedication, and if you want it bad enough, work to get it, because there's times where you may beat yourself and be like, man, this is tough. This is just getting harder and harder each event, and you just got to keep that drive.
It's just like fighting spirit.
Just like in anything, and in any form of business, there's going to be those ups and downs. The people who usually get through those downs are going to be up higher the next round, and it's just staying committed and not letting anything stop you or get you down from it.
Yeah, the Japanese have an expression, nana korobi ya oki. It means getting knocked down 7 times, but getting up that 8th.
Yep, that's exactly the mindset you need.
And that's a Carter Cutlery high performance tip.